in here with everything, and we'll rock and roll on this.
Awesome.
Welcome back to the Hank Strange Situation, Lifestyles of the Locked and Loaded.
With Armslist, you can shop the extensive list of local and nationwide firearms classified, now with more confidence because of their built-in firewall. For only $6.99 a month for personal use, or $30 a month for business vendors, so when you're in the market, please consider Armslist. We wouldn't be able to keep the Who Moved My Freedom podcast going without the support of great companies like Armslist. All right, boom! We're live. Did I actually do this right this time, Patrick?
It looks like it's working.
I don't even know. We are live from the Rumbles where we can actually touch guns like this TSOS 9mm 1911. Patrick's got a deadly knife over there. What kind of knife is that?
This is Marley's knife. It's a Microtech in shiny purple. Yes,
absolutely. All right, Lewis, if you got something... Oh, there you go. Boom. You know, Lewis got guns, so... So this is episode 1056. I hope you guys have your big girl panties on. It's Florida Civil War, because, believe it or not, there is a Civil War.
And I have to say, I did not do this on purpose.
No, you guys, damn it! You know what? I should have put on a GOA shirt. Damn it!
I literally
have my GOA shirt on purpose with my name, of course.
Yeah, Lewis has got his name on there, and he's legit. I must have a. Do I have a GOA hat here? Oh, you know what? Hold on. I will not let you guys out GOA me. Respect though to Armslist. Respect. Bam!
There you go.
GOA hat. Now we're matching. There you go. So we've got Luis Valdes, who you are the director of the Florida branch of GOA. I'm sure I got that wrong, Luis. Fill me in on that.
So I'm let's go over the whole title list. National Spokesman, Florida State Director, and Director of Outreach for Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands.
Sweet.
Oh,
nice.
Puerto Rico too. Cool.
Oh, yeah, GOA, we cover the entire country, not just the states. We cover the territories too, brother.
There you go. Boom. So soon you'll be covering Greenland and Canada as well.
Canada.
I mean, I hope the border goes all the way down to the Darien Gap. You know, it'd be real nice to move the main offices down there to where we're not freezing to death.
Oh, okay. Wait, you saying we're taking over Mexico? We're going everywhere. Might as well. Take it all. So we've got Babyface P joining us.
Yes.
What's up, Patrick?
I am ready to lose my mind over politics tonight.
Oh, okay. So between you and Lewis, I guess that's good. I can just control stuff.
Nowadays, I only get the stuff on Twitter pretty much about Florida from Lewis on his Twitter, commenting on everybody else's Twitter, and I'm losing my mind over what all the nonsense they're doing.
Yes, a lot of nonsense. We will get into it. Walter's not here. I hope everything's good with Walter. He might check in with us. I don't know, but he won't be coming in tonight. Big shout out to everyone who is in the chat, and I just want to remind everyone who's out there, please hit those thumbs ups. We really need and appreciate the thumbs ups from everyone. So hit those. Let's see who we got in here. Shooting Galleries out there. Shout out to him. We've got C Bullish, Jade Grew as well out there. Night Train Original also out there. What does Night Train say, Babyface? I hope you liked my photo sporting my recently acquired G17.
I haven't seen it. Where did you post it? Because I want to see it.
Where would that be? Cool. Yes, and then he also says, I want to visit Puerto Rico with my Venezuelan wife, but I can't bring my concealed carry firearm there. Any chance GOA can rectify that obstacle? Okay, people starting early, so Lewis, I'm
all up for it, brother. I'm all up. So we're doing a couple of things. Of course, with H.R. 38, the National Reciprocity Bill in Congress, we're pushing that heavily. That got out of its first committee. It's now going to the Rules Committee, where we believe it's going to pass that, and then it's going to go to the floor of the House and Congress, and hopefully onto the Senate and to President Trump's desk. Mm-hmm. So that's one avenue of attack. We're pushing for full reciprocity for all Americans. But another thing we're doing is we're actually trying to deal directly with the government of Puerto Rico because, look, they're just like any other state or territory. they could establish reciprocity. So we're in 2019, they changed their laws from may issue to shall issue. Now, prior to the law change, you had to get a permit to own and a permit to carry. It was a lot like New York and Illinois. Now the permit is all combined. The permit to own is a permit to carry. It shall issue. And when they passed the law, they wrote it that as long as the Policía de Puerto Rico, basically their version of the state police, the Puerto Rican Police Department, sets up what they call a memorandum of understanding, which is the fancy way of saying reciprocity, with any other jurisdiction in the United States, and they recognize each other's permits. Hey, great. That's how states do it right now. Florida law is they'll recognize anyone's permit from outside of Florida. You have other states that, they'll only accept an outside permit if they accept their home state permit, vice versa. So we're pushing multiple angles. Now, look, for me, it's screwed up that as a former cop, I can carry in Puerto Rico under the Law Enforcement Officer Safety Act. But my wife, who is Boricua, who born and raised in Puerto Rico, can't carry when she visits family. So, that's one of the reasons why we're pushing it. Yeah. And the simple fact that, look, Puerto Rico is 3 million Americans living there. On top of that, how many people go back and forth from the mainland to PR to visit family? And the same thing with the Virgin Islands. A lot of people go to the Virgin Islands in Puerto Rico for vacation at the height of winter when everyone's freezing to death. They want to go to a nice, warm, tropical place. And so we're pushing this. We are fully on board with full reciprocity for the entirety of the United States. That means all 50 states, all territories, and D.C.
Okay. Yeah, so correct me if I'm wrong here. Seems like there is some progress that's happened in Puerto Rico, but we just didn't go all the way yet.
Yeah. Okay. Puerto Rico went from being draconian like New York City to basically what some of the southern states were in the mid to late 90s. Okay. So they're still behind, but I can tell you this: the fact that now there shall issue, there has been an explosion in permits. People are applying left and right, and the biggest number of permit applicants are women between the ages of 21 to 45, basically young, hardworking aged, business-owning women. These are people that do a lot of cash business. They're in the beauty industry. They're beauticians. They're manicurists. They're hairstylists. All of that.
Yeah, they're potentially at risk, right? Puerto Rico's not super safe. It's not. We're not talking Hong Kong when we're talking about Puerto Rico, you can just leave stuff around and no one will take it.
Look, I go to Puerto Rico often, and I can tell you this: Puerto Rico is like any other part of the U.S. You got the good and the bad. You go to downtown Metro San Juan. Yeah, it's kind of dingy. It's kind of scummy. You go down to the southwest end to like Cabo Rojo. Dude, it's paradise. It's beautiful. It's nice. You can walk down the streets. It all depends on where you go. Hey, it's the same like even here in Florida, Remember how downtown Miami was 25 years ago compared to now due to gentrification.
Yeah, that's true. Listen, I think we're going in a good direction with that. So, it's not perfect, but I would love to be able to, visit Puerto Rico like Night Train is saying and actually, check my firearm on the flight and do that, So that's cool. Yeah. I like it. Well, I like that.
Our end goal is we're looking to host an event down in PR, a GOA sponsored event. We're going to get down and active in lobbying down there, just as we are here on the mainland. And it comes down to a very simple thing. We're all Americans. It doesn't matter what part of America you're in. We all have the same rights. So we're all going to fight for it.
Yeah,
no more, no less.
Absolutely. And listen, my personal opinion is Second Amendment, as well as other rights, should be for the whole world.
Yeah.
So, everyone should be able to do that. All right. So listen here. Let me just do a couple of things. Before we get real deep into this here, I want to show off. Let's see here. Hold on one second. I wonder if I just messed up something. Okay. No. All right. So I'm just trying to make sure I don't accidentally delete anything. Boom. Check it out. Here's our AI logo. for the day. There you go. You guys could take a look at that. We usually do the eagle. That's for Walter. Walter got a double eagle today. So, we're still repping for Walter. And then we usually do a dog. That's basically symbolizes Babyface P. And then the skull is me. But you'll notice there's 2 dogs in here. Look at that. You know why? Because I personally think, and I don't know, this is, I'm not trying to make you mad here, Lewis, but I see you as like a pit bull, man. I personally see you as like a pit bull that we have in Tallahassee, working with GOA, doing a lot of different stuff. You're not just in Tallahassee, but fighting for Second Amendment rights here. And that's why I personally enjoy having you on. And then this whole thing going on with Florida, where I don't know if anyone else here in Florida has noticed it, but there is kind of a civil war going on. DeSantis, since the election, has gotten more MAGA and is trying to push what I think is some cool stuff. But the, how can I put it here? The legislature, the Republicans that basically run Florida aren't letting any of this happen. Do you want to give us a primer on that? Bring us up to speed, Lewis. And then Patrick, I know, has got a bunch of questions and stuff, and so probably the folks too. We'll jump into that.
So this last election cycle, this past November, we had a new election cycle, and in Florida we have off-year elections for governor. So DeSantis was voted into governor back in 2022 for his final term. So he's out basically January 2027. So he's got 2 years left in office right now. But we have a new House Speaker and a new Senate President in Florida. And going back to November, the moment they got sworn in, they basically said that they're going to try to lame duck DeSantis. The governor, they put that agenda out on the table. Mm-hmm. They said they were going to try to lame duck the governor. In January, the governor called a special session for immigration enforcement. And he had a solid immigration enforcement bill. It was basically saying, hey, look, if you're an illegal and you're breaking the law, we're busting you. We're turning you over to the feds. You're getting the heck out of here.
Yeah, it was mirroring what Trump, the Trump administration is doing on a national level, right? And
pretty much, it was basically deputizing the entire Florida political system and its law enforcement apparatus to assist the federal government in immigration enforcement. Mm-hmm. So DeSantis calls the special session. Within 30 minutes of that special session, they cancel the governor's special session, when originally they said they weren't even going to do it. They were saying, look, in reality, what we need to do is we could discuss immigration enforcement during the regular session. We don't need to do a special session. Governor called their bluff, called it. 30 minutes into the special session, they cancel his. They introduced their own immigration bill called the Trump Act, which was nothing had to do with immigration enforcement. It was literally an amnesty bill, basically. It was a sanctuary.
Right.
The governor calls them out on it. They override the governor's vetoes on the budget. The governor vetoes their amnesty bill and says, I want a real immigration bill. So another special session's called. They passed what the governor wants, and there you go. But now, going into the regular session, and between then and now, the governor has called out the legislature for their failure on the Second Amendment. He's flat out said multiple times now, we're the worst Republican state in the country. We don't have open carry. We don't have red flag repeal. It's horrible that we have mandatory waiting periods, that we have an under 21 purchase ban, all of this.
Mm-hmm. The stuff that came out of Parkland, I think.
Yep. Yeah. All the post-Parkland stuff, and some of it even before. Mm-hmm. The current Attorney General flat out said he's not going to defend the under 21 purchase ban in the U.S. Supreme Court. The Commissioner of Agriculture, who wrote the Parkland bill, mind you, he even said that he now favors open carry and repealing the under 21 purchase ban. Mm-hmm. But the House Speaker and the Senate President are against open carry. The Senate President is against repealing red flag laws, as is the House Speaker. And the Senate President is right now even waffling back and forth on if he's going to allow the under 21 purchase ban repeal legislation to advance, because we fought tooth and nail to get it through the House. Now it's the Senate's turn. And he just last week literally was asked by the media, now that it passed the House, what are you going to do? And he goes, well, I haven't changed my mind. I'm still going back and forth on it.
Yeah, I'm just pulling up some of that. If you guys look it up, here's a headline. What's this? Florida Phoenix. Florida House again passes measure restoring the rights of 18-year-olds to purchase long guns. And it goes into what's going on here. For the third year in a row, the Florida House has passed a bill, HB 759, that will lower the age for individuals in Florida to purchase shotguns and rifles from 21 to where it should be at least 18. The final tally was 78 to 34. And it goes into a whole thing here. But basically, it's talking about what's going on here with the Republicans that are in rebellion against DeSantis, right?
Yeah. They also have a great quote from me on that in that article.
Okay, let me see. I'm trying to see where it's at.
What does this stem from? Why are they so anti-DeSantis?
Well, part of it comes down to the simple issue of politics. DeSantis he's done as a governor. They rode the governor's coattails because they believed if he could have gotten into the White House, he could have appointed them to ambassadorial slots or running an agency head and all that. And now that didn't happen, they're like, oh, okay, we're done with you. That was part of it. The other part of it, too, is that you have to remember that DeSantis was not the Republican Party's choice for governor. He completely upset the apple cart back in 2018. They wanted Adam Putnam, the previous commissioner of agriculture, to be governor. DeSantis originally was going to run for Marco Rubio's seat in the Senate.
Okay.
Because remember, Rubio was going to run for the White House. Rubio originally said, I'm not going to run for my seat in the Senate. DeSantis was going to run for then at last minute, Rubio says, no, I'm going to keep my seat in the Senate. So that put the whole kibosh. So DeSantis decides to run for governor, upsets the apple cart, and he's been upsetting the apple cart since then. The Republican establishment doesn't like DeSantis because DeSantis wants to do three things. He wants to shrink the scope and scale of government. He wants to expand civil liberties. And most importantly, he wants to remove the issues that the legislature constantly campaigns on. If gun rights, if property taxes, if immigration, if all of that was resolved, what do all these lawmakers have to campaign on and keep winning office for?
Yeah, I agree. They have to have issues. Let me just bring this up real quick. I see we have John Crump, real John Crump, in the chat. Shout out to him. He says, "Who is that bald guy in the middle? He looks like a crazy Florida guy." So shout out to him out there, basically trolling us. And let me just pull up your quote here real quick, Patrick. Let me know. Let's see. So meanwhile, guns. Let's see where was that quote? I just had it.
Scroll up. You just
scroll up. I just went past it. Okay.
Go up a little bit more.
Here we go. Luis Valdes, the state. Let me get this thing out of the way. Okay, Luis Valdes, the state director for Gun Owners of America, praised the vote in a statement, noted how former Senate President Kathleen Passidomo killed the legislation in the past 2 years, and say now all eyes are on the Senate President Alberton. Okay, and is this your quote here?
Yep, that's my quote.
Ben Alberton faces a choice, he said: champion the will of the people and restore Second Amendment rights, or follow in Passidomo's footsteps and betray gun owners across Florida. So there you go. That's the quote. Patrick, did you have something you wanted to add here before I don't know. He looked like he was eating. Oh, there you
go. No, I'm nothing in particular. I was just curious about the back, like why. So it all comes down to politics and them being just useless.
And they're rhinos. I mean, you and I know that.
That's what drives me crazy.
Yeah.
So we have been pushing, of course, open carry and a lot of other pro-gun issues. Mm-hmm. I had a lawmaker tell me, I would push open carry in a way that makes DeSantis look bad. Mm-hmm. And I was confused. I was like, are you kidding me? How are you going to make the governor look bad? He's the guy literally for 2 years in a row now saying, I want open carry on my desk. and he's the guy that has to sign it into law. How are you going to make him look bad? And these are Republicans telling me this.
I don't understand this. Like, I do, but I don't at the same time. It's because they're lifers. They want to stay in politics. They don't want to do something and get out, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, at this point, I think that, obviously I agree with everything you said vis-a-vis, DeSantis trying to run for president. It didn't really work out. A whole bunch of things going on there. I think it worked out the best way it possibly could, my personal opinion, because he's been a really, really good governor for the state of Florida. We wouldn't be able to keep the Who Moved My Freedom podcast going without the support of great companies like Franklin Armory. Franklin Armory provides 100% US-made firearms and awesome binary option triggers. Their focus and purpose is to provide freedom tools to all Americans, especially those in not-so-free states. So when you're in the market, please consider Franklin Armory. All right, shout out to the Franklin Armory guys. So I think he's done a good job here, and it's so weird to look at all the different things he's trying to do. Like when it comes to the property tax thing, I saw you had a press conference earlier today, and it's the same situation going on there, right? These guys keep trying to kill the property tax stuff that DeSantis is pushing for as well, right?
Yeah, so the governor flat out said, look, it's wrong that if you own property, you have to pay rent to the government. Let's abolish property taxes. Mm-hmm. And the House Speaker instead decides to push a sales tax cut that cuts the base sales tax from 6% to 5.25. So it's a 75-cent tax. But here's the thing. Mm-hmm. No county in Florida is at a 6% sales tax.
No.
There's only one out of all 67 counties, only one county is at like 6.75. The rest are hovering between 7.5. Our few are an 8 because every county is allowed to raise the sales tax up to 2 cents per $100. So of course, or not 2 cents, but 2%. So it comes out to 2 cents per $100 for $100. But the biggest issue.
I feel like this did nothing for us Floridians living here. This does things for tourists coming in. They don't have to spend as much money.
Yeah.
Yeah, because here's the thing. The majority of expenses that Floridians have, things like groceries, most of that's already tax-free. Mm-hmm. So you're talking, I did the math. I do, on average, I go to BJ's every 2 weeks or so, grocery shopping for my family. We spend about $200, give or take. Comes out to like $2.50 or something like that in sales tax.
Yeah, shout out to BJ's. I haven't seen a BJ since I lived in Jersey.
I would save $65 annually through that sales tax cut that the House Speaker wants to do, Danny Perez. But the governor this morning, through his if we did a property tax cut, I would save $1,000 a year. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go with $1,000. Because and like you said, the sales tax benefits tourists. It doesn't benefit Floridians. Right. And that's an issue. You have an entire group within the legislature that all they care about are tourists. They don't care about the people that actually live here. They don't care about their rights. They don't care about whether it's property rights, fiscal integrity, gun rights, anything. They don't care. They're killing it all.
To get the tourists. That's a really good point right there, Patrick. I think, and I know DeSantis was mentioning the tourists, and Canadians and all that kind of stuff. Especially, they're trying to cater to those people, but nothing really for the people who actually live here.
This might be bad, but my brain also says that this comes back to who makes the money off of the tourists? Big business, the folks that. This was the same for when they were pushing the amnesty bill. Who was truly pushing that? It was the people who would make the money off of having the illegals here picking fruits and stuff. That's how I felt.
Yeah. Hold on one second. Let me do this. Patrick, I don't know. You might want to center your camera a little bit more because you're a little bit off. There you go. Right there. Boom. Oh, perfect. Let me just do this real quick. Hot Dog 990 gifted 5 subscriptions to folks here. So I think that I see Real John Crump got one and some other folks. So big thanks to Hot Dog 990. I don't know who that is. I don't know if that's someone here with Rumble, but it's pretty awesome to be here on Rumble. So I just want to shout out. If you guys have questions, let us know. I'm going to try to get to those. Let's see. Let me see what's. Let me go on the timeline here. Yeah, and then also I see people reminding everyone to hit those thumbs up, subscribe to us, etc. The thumbs ups will help us on Rumble, so we do appreciate that. I guess it works a little bit, the way that YouTube does. Lola Strange said, BJ's, that was a long time ago. Yeah, now we do Sam's Club or Costco if we're feeling like traveling. And let's see, there was a question here. Night Train says, to paraphrase Master Yoda, strong is the state of Florida, the rhino is. Strong in the state, yeah.
It's insane. They don't, I don't want to be nasty, but it's like they don't care about the average little guy. They don't. I would save so much money on my mortgage if we didn't have to pay the escrow property tax like we do.
Yeah, okay. It's absolutely insane. Look, my wife and I, we worked hard. We outright own our house, and it's insane that every year we have to pay between $4,000 to $5,000 to the government, just to live in the house that we own. That's wrong. Just like it's wrong that if I walk down the street or you walk down the street and our shirt's right up, we could get arrested because our gun magically showed.
Yeah.
So especially since COVID, right? I think Florida was always edging up before COVID in terms of property values. But then after COVID, and we didn't really shut the state down and all that kind of stuff, we've got a lot of people moving out here. House values are going up. And then, you're getting caught in that situation where the value of your home's going up. And then depending on the town you're in, like, some super liberal towns like Gainesville, for example, it's a good excuse for places there to push up taxes and all that kind of. And then, if you're looking at Palm Beach and other places in Florida, that really is something that will benefit people. So do you feel like the people of Florida are aware of all of this going on? Whether we're talking about the Second Amendment, property taxes, etc. Do you think people are aware this is going on? Do you think maybe that's why they're getting away with it so far?
Well, I can tell you this. For a very long time, the Republican establishment got away with it because, for the most part, there was no way to remove the curtain and show what happens behind the scenes. But the governor this year especially, he didn't just peel back the curtain. He ripped it down. And when the Civil War started, I wrote an article for Firearm News, and basically the whole premise of it says, congratulations, Florida. Now you guys are getting to experience what gun owners have experienced for over a decade with Republicans betraying you. And, this was about the immigration issue. And now in terms of immigration, property tax, fiscal integrity, the entire population of Florida, they really opened their eyes to see how screwed up it is. And they realize, there's a huge establishment operation here in Florida that basically silenced all of us. And the dangerous part of all of this is, if you look at history, if you look at states like California, for instance, California used to be a Republican stronghold. I mean, they elected Ronald Reagan as governor.
Yeah. Same thing with Colorado, man. There's bad stuff happening in Colorado, too, yeah.
Part of their fall and part of Colorado's fall and Virginia and elsewhere was that the Republican Party got complacent, got corrupt, stopped pushing the issues that actually were what the people wanted, and they only cared about the donor base. And in the end, they lost power because the average voter isn't wed to a political party. They're wed to their freedoms and their pocketbooks. And when you have one party selling you out constantly and the other party just says, hey, look, I'm going to promise you sunshine, unicorn farts, and kittens, they're going to go to that.
Yeah. So what can we do here? Oh, by the way, let me just get this in too. Hot Dog 990 is our peeps. I think that is John and Dark. That's what I hear. So big thanks. And shout out to everyone who's coming in. Okay, so what can we do about this? I don't know if Patrick has any questions. My big thing is, what can we do? Like here in Florida, how do we stay aware of it. What can we actually do about this bullshit going on? I want these things. I want an 18-year-old to be able to defend themselves. I want the property taxes to go down for people who live here.
I've always complained about this. I was at my most vulnerable when I was 18. I didn't have a ton of money to live in the good side of town. I lived in the shittiest part of town because that's what I could afford. I was the most. Now I got plenty of money. We have a house, and I'm easily defending myself. But back then, I wasn't able to.
It's just not fair. And there's so many. Yeah, remember when this happened, Patrick? We spoke to. Oh man, his name always goes out. Keith Perry.
We spoke to him.
Don't get me started on that.
Representative Keith Perry. I know who you're talking about.
Yes, he's here. He's here in Gainesville, and know some people that I know that we knew then. But I don't know those people anymore. But some people I know even now. I run into him every now and then, and he had this idea about that whole thing. Like, well, I can get something for my daughter if she's. I was like, dude. There's a whole bunch of people out here that are not like your daughter. There's young men and women who don't have their parents to rely, to be able to rely on to do those kinds of things. Yeah.
I'll go even a step further. What about all the out-of-state college kids that can't legally take possession of a firearm because it has to go through an interstate transfer to an FFL, and the firearm can't be released, even if they have parents that are pro-gun? And like you said, what about all the kids that? What if they have parents that are either anti-gun or they just can't afford it?
Yeah, it's insane. People who are 18, 19, 20 years old. I think, there was a military exemption, right? That it was added to that.
If they're under orders and they have paperwork saying that, this purchase is in regards to...
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and that's insane. You're 18, you can go die for your country. As Patrick was saying, I was living on my own at 18 years old, on my own. Yeah, in New York City, so I didn't have much of a chance, I'll be honest with you guys. I didn't give a shit. I believed in defending myself where I could. Obviously you have to try to stay out of jail in New York City, but it's ridiculous in a place like Florida. You could be 18, 19, 20 years old, and you cannot go defend yourself on your own without basically doing a straw purchase kind of thing.
Yeah, it's screwed up. And the state's argument in court is even more retarded because they're claiming that, adults under the age of 21 don't have the mental faculties to possess and own a firearm safely. Yet we let 19-year-olds become cops in Florida and enforce the very gun laws that they're defending in court, claiming, well, if you're under 21, you're too stupid to do this. But you're claiming someone at 19 is smart enough to be an armed agent of the state and be entrusted with lethal force to enforce gun control.
Yeah,
you're a bit hypocritical.
You're either an adult or you're not an adult.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're either an adult or you're not an adult. If you're not an adult in the state of Florida at 18, you're not an adult until you're 21 or whatever it is. Then all this stuff like being able to be prosecuted as an adult and all that kind of stuff, having to serve
sign contracts, to marry, to purchase property, all of that should be 21 and up. Then
should just all go out the window to that nonsense if that's what they really believe. Let's see. I just want to get this in from Shooting Gallery. He says, I'm in the Sarasota area and the average rent is above $2,000 and I'm in somewhat okay area, but people here in early 20s could not afford to live one in a bedroom. Yeah. No. It's gotten insane in Florida.
It's expensive. Life is expensive.
Yeah, it's gotten really insane.
We purchased our home pre-construction for $225,000. Took a year to build. When we moved into it, it was already valued at $325,000. Our property taxes have skyrocketed astronomically every year. And one of the biggest issues is, look, I'll bring up my father, retired guy, fixed income. He outright owns his home, but eventually those property taxes are going to get to a point where he can't afford the property tax, and it's going to price him out. And you have Republicans in the legislature pushing a sales tax instead of property tax reductions when you literally have that going on. You have Floridians across the state being priced out of their own homes because they can't afford the property tax because either they're on a fixed income or they're working class and they're trying to keep up with, their mortgage, their property tax, their car insurance, their homeowner's insurance. putting food on the table. Yeah. And they're coming down to the point of they're having to triage what they could pay.
Yeah, all of which has gotten more expensive. Yeah. So what do we do? That brings us back to what do we do about that? How can we stay aware? How can we do something? I feel like this is not really big news in the state of Florida, and people aren't really aware of it. The voting folks, the folks like us that are pro-gun guys, pro-Second Amendment people, aren't really keeping tabs with this. How do we do that?
Well, for your viewers that are right now in the Panhandle and in Brevard County, there's 2 special elections going on for the State House. GOA has endorsed Hayden Hudson up in House District 1 and Bob White in House District 32. The primary election is tomorrow, so if you're in those districts, go vote. We need solid guys like both of them in the State House. But more importantly, when the regular election season comes along in 2026, remember, the primary is going to be in August. The general election is going to be in November. We need to primary out a lot of incumbent Republicans who are anti-gun, anti-freedom, anti-liberty, and we need to put in good people. So that comes down to 3 things. You need to be politically active. You need to vet the candidates that are running, whether they're an incumbent or they're a primary challenger. And third, you need to vote. You can't just vote blindingly. You can't walk into the poll and just go, oh, I'm going to vote Team R, yay. No, you have to actually go in and see, who are you voting for? What's their record? Look, I'll give you a great example. David Smith out of Orlando, the guy's been in office forever. He flat out said on camera, oh, I'm against constitutional carry and open carry because it affects tourists. Mind you, but this is where he really went with it. It affects international tourists. Now, mind you, Florida has a state-owned company called Visit Florida. Their entire thing is tracking the tourism industry. Their numbers are really shocking. 96% of all tourists who visit Florida are American. Only 4% are international, meaning Canadians, Europeans, people from the Caribbean, Latin America, things like that. 96% of the people who visit Florida are American, and last I checked, 45 states have open carry. So if open carry was such a thing that would scare Americans away, they wouldn't have it in their own home states. But David Smith, a Republican, only cares about 4% of international tourists, and literally throws them Floridian Second Amendment rights in the ash heap for them.
Yeah, that's nonsense, by the way. I think that people around the country, as you're saying, come to visit Florida because of the freedom.
Yeah. Okay?
Because of the freedom. We get a bad rap if you're looking at movies, you get that from the media in general, Florida, but people realize there's a lot of freedom when they come here, right? And they appreciate that. Also, it's just a really beautiful state. But the ability to have that freedom here is a big deal. And a lot of the tourists and stuff like that come here, I don't know the percentages like you would, but even the people coming from overseas are coming here shooting guns and all that kind of stuff, so they're not, they're not afraid or worried about guns that much.
In David Smith's district, there's a business called Machine Gun America. They're a rental range. All they do is they rent machine guns. I've spoken to the owners. The majority of their clients are international tourists who come to visit Disney because they're 5 minutes from Disney. Right. And literally, they go like, wait, we could shoot a machine gun? And they're like, yeah, come on in. Pay, like, I forget the packages, but it's like $200 and you get like 5 guns with 1 mag each, and you could mag dump it.
That's not bad.
But they're making money hands over fist because you have people from the United Kingdom, from Europe, from Latin America, from Canada, that they come here and they go, man, I'm in the U.S. I want to shoot a machine gun. They're not scared. They're loving it. But, oh, God forbid, if a Floridian is actually open carrying a handgun and you saw this, it might scare one guy, and we can't have that. We can't have any Floridian actually, exercising their rights like the rest of America does.
I think the issue. Yeah, I think the rest of the world realizes that old saying that an armed society is a polite society. So I'm not saying everywhere in Florida is awesome. Like you were saying earlier, there are some parts of Florida, lots of craziness going on. But for the most part, in Florida, you don't know who you're dealing with. That little old lady could be packing and knows very well how to use what she's packing. Yes, so I think it makes her a polite society in most cases. I think in very liberal places is where you have a lot of issues with that. But for example, living out in the country, I don't really see that as much. Even if you look at the, let's see, we got like a minute here. Even if you look at all these protests and stuff like that against Tesla that's happening right now, you're not seeing a lot of that craziness happening in Florida, although there are things. But I think people would be insane to try to mess with someone in a Tesla here in Florida, thinking that you're dealing with, someone, like, because they're driving an electric car, they're not packing.
Yeah, absolutely. The fact that people think that, urban areas are not pro-gun, it's ludicrous. I mean, look, some of the biggest gun people I know live in urban areas too. So it's just the arguments that they keep making are false and aren't right. It's been proven wrong across the board.
Yeah, absolutely. We got like about 10 seconds here before we hit the break. Let me see if there's any comments. I see there's some folks coming in right now. Shout out to everyone who's coming in and out of here. Please hit those thumbs ups as you guys. We wouldn't be able to keep the Who Moved My Freedom podcast going without the support of great companies like High Point Firearms and Full Forge Gear, bags and gear for everyday life. Did you know High Point is an American family-owned and operated company located in Ohio with over 30 years of manufacturing experience? High Point is proud to be the home of the working man's gun and your source for affordable handguns and carbines with a lifetime warranty. So when you're in the market, please consider High Point. All right, we're back. We'll get to guns. If you guys want to see some guns, we'll get to that. What I really do want to do right now is continue breaking this down with Luis. And I also just want to share with you, here is Luis's, this is his X account right here. At Real FL Gun Lobby, and you will see a picture of Luis all dressed up here. That's where to go. And then should we please go follow this, guys, and then help support him, help build this up. And then also we should I show the GOA on let me pull up the GOA account in here. I think it's just gun owners, right? Yeah, here we go.
Just gun owners.
Yeah, Gun Owners of America is also here. That's another place for you guys. You can go to the Gun Owners of America website. This thing is kind of weird. Let me see. I got to pull it and hold it down. There you go. Gun Owners of America. Right? So you can go there, get lots of information as well. Go there, support those guys, keep up with what's going on. There's an email list you can get on. Anything else that I'm missing here, Luis, or things you want to reinforce so far as information?
Well, for anyone that wants to join GOA, it's real simple. You just go to gunowners.org/join. It's $25 a year, and every penny goes towards the fight. As Hank knows, look, we got lawsuits all over the country. We've got lawsuits in California, Illinois, New York, but not just there. We also have lawsuits in Florida. We have a lawsuit challenging the open carry and under 21 carry ban. We challenge things on the local level. We have challenges in Pennsylvania. We even have a challenge in Tennessee. We fight tooth and nail. I don't go around the state of Florida or the country in a bespoken suit in a private jet. I go around in a simple polo with my name on it, our logo on it. I drive a 2011 beat up Hyundai Elantra that has stripped paint and half the window tinting is peeling off.
Damn you, Hyundai, with your paint jobs.
Hey. Every penny goes towards the fight, and I'm telling you, folks, it's just $25 a year, and you get up-to-the-date information on what's going on. Local, county, state, and federal. But more importantly, there's action alerts on how to get involved, what lawmakers to communicate to, how to target them, how to put pressure on them, how to get things done. And I could give you some great examples. Back when we were pushing for church carry here in Florida, we had a Democrat lawmaker. I forget her name now, but she was on one of the committees in the state legislature. And she flat out said, I am voting in favor of this bill. And then she pointed at me, basically saying, because your alerts, your people keep emailing and calling my office. So it really matters. It really works, folks.
Absolutely.
I know some people are going to roll their eyes and be like, "Oh, another email block." Look, I'm telling you, whenever we send out an alert and we're asking for you to get involved, it's for a reason. And the best way to think of it is every time you send an email, but more importantly, every time you make a phone call, that sends a strong message. Because think of it this way. Email represents 5, 10 people. Phone calls represent 100 people. So you really carry a lot of weight. And even if you live outside of the state or outside of that district, you carry a lot of weight. Because look, for Florida, for instance, Republicans keep claiming, it's tourists. It's going to hurt tourists. Fine, you live in Wisconsin. Call up the Florida House Speaker and Senate President and say, I'm a tourist. I'm only going to spend my money there if you're pro-gun, and then hang up.
Yeah. Night Train says he's confirmed to attend 2025 goals. So there you go. And then Cibolas. Huh?
Sweet.
Yes. And Cibolas says he may go to goals, and he joined GOA. Lola and I are lifetime members. It's pretty easy to do that. So let's get back to this to what's going on with the 18-year-olds being restricted. Where is it at right now?
So right now it passed the House. We're now waiting for the Senate to do one of two things: either pick up Senate Bill 940, which is the Senate version of the House bill, or just bring in the House bill and push it through the committee. The problem is the Senate president is basically anti-gun at this point. And that's the issue.
And the Senate president, right, is not a Democrat. That's a Republican.
He's a Republican, but he's taken over $1 million in donations from Democrats like Morgan & Morgan.
Who is it?
Ben Albritton.
Ben, okay, that was mentioned in that article. What is the deal with that dude? Where did he even come from? Who is this guy? I'm going to look this guy up. Hold on.
Good old boy from Central Florida, comes from a family of citrus farmers. He ain't a New Yorker. The ever classic argument, it's always the Yankees that move to Florida that are anti-gun. No, he's a good old Southern boy. And for folks that don't know Florida history, he's Florida cracker.
He's a Florida cracker?
Yeah.
Is that what you just said?
So why is he?
That doesn't make any sense. This dude is a Florida cracker. And if people don't know, we're not. That's not a derogative. Florida crackers are like Florida. They're like a cowboy kind of.
Yeah, they're like 5th, 6th generation Floridians because Florida cowboys used a bullwhip to herd cows. Hence the name Florida crackers. So he could trace his family to that.
Yeah, these are hardcore people.
Out west, they would be called like pioneer families, basically.
Yeah.
Here in Florida, you call them Florida crackers.
Yeah, and they were pretty awesome. I mean, they did everything on their own. Go ahead, Patrick.
For anybody listening that's not a Floridian, we have Cracker Country that you can go to where they have all of the lifestyle stuff from back then. You can see how it was done. It's awesome.
Yeah, I've been there. It's fantastic. I love it. It's
It's not the state fair in Tampa.
Yeah.
Been there. Yeah, it's awesome. You see them they make guns like they did back in the days. Black powder. They're blacksmiths making guns. All that stuff. They make all their own stuff. So wow, that's crazy to think that's going on. So this Ben Albritton guy, man, we got to somehow communicate with this guy that he's going in the wrong path.
The problem is in the Florida legislature, they select the leadership 4 years in advance. So right now, they have already selected who's going to be the House Speaker and the Senate President for the next 4 years, for the next 4 cycles, after 2-year cycles after this. And this is the screwed up thing. Albritton was selected 4 years ago, even though he didn't win election yet. That's how.
Wait, he wasn't. Yeah. So was he already in the House? What is it?
He was already in the House,
Senate.
and in the Senate. He did a full 8 years in the House, and now he's doing his 8 years in the Senate. But here's the screwed up thing. So, like for the House Speaker, they're elected every 2 years. The House Speaker is already the guy that's going to replace Daniel Perez in 2026, his name is Sam Garrison. Mm-hmm. He hasn't even won re-election yet. They already have him picked.
Wow.
Because they're that sure he's going to win because, it's a political issue. Mm-hmm. It's I hate to say it, it's almost...
Good old boy. Yeah, good old boy network. Good old boy network. Yeah. So, go ahead.
The problem with Albritton is, and all of the leadership, is they're always picked at the end of their term limits. He is answerable to no one. So he doesn't care what the constituency says. He doesn't care what he campaigned on, because at this point, he's term limited. He's answerable to no one, and that is the danger of term limits. And that's what happens. You have this cycle, year in, year out, where every legislative leader is term limited, and they're just carrying on this inertia of this corrupt political machine instead of doing what the people want.
So it's interesting. So generally, we think term limits are good, but you're saying in this case they're not.
Yeah, in this case, this is the downside of term limits: is you have lawmakers who are answerable to no one, and they do whatever the heck they want, and they betray their constituency. Now, luckily, the governor is doing the exact opposite. He's term limited, but he's fighting tooth and nail for the people.
Yeah, I think the governor is reading the tea leaves, and he realizes that MAGA is the way to go forward in America. Even the young people are MAGA.
Are onto it, yeah.
Yeah, so, and I'm not trying to knock him with that. I mean, people need to realize that.
Look,
yeah.
Look, it comes down to this. If anyone is a student of political history, remember, Ronald Reagan tried running for president in 1976. He didn't win the nomination. Gerald R. Ford did. And Reagan's speech at the Republican National Convention in 76, he was supportive of Ford. He said, hey, look, I didn't win. It is what it is. I'm backing Ford all the way. And he gave a hell of a speech that basically laid the groundwork for him to run in 1980. I think DeSantis is basically doing the same thing. He tried to run in 2024. He didn't win. He backed Trump. He said, hey, I'm fully on board with Trump. It is what it is. And now he's showing the American people what a true leader is compared to the other crowded field.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, man, this is it's kind of distressing to see that this is going on. What is the way to deal with this? What is the way through this? Do we have a chance?
The way forward and the way to deal with this is we need to be loud. We need to be proud. We need to challenge our lawmakers. Our lawmakers have been used to 30 years where they're not publicly challenged on anything. When they do their town hall events here in Florida, usually it's a kiss the ring type event. They go, everyone says, oh, thanks for being my leader. You're awesome. Great. Pat on the back. Awesome. Claps. And they leave. Mm-hmm. No, now with GOA involved here in Florida and other like-minded organizations like the Republican Liberty Caucus, who Bob White's a part of, they're a multifaceted org, so they challenge a couple other things. And the Republican National Hispanic Assembly and elsewhere, we're all challenging these lawmakers publicly saying, look, you guys can't in on this stuff. It's put up or shut up time. Mm-hmm. Just for an example, North Carolina, they're advancing constitutional carry, real constitutional carry, which is 18 and up could carry without a permit, openly or concealed. But not Florida. Florida can't do that.
So I think Patrick and I have talked about this. How can we primary these guys, or I don't know.
Can we?
Yeah, can we? Yeah, good question.
Well, a great thing is right now you guys need to start scouting and looking for potential candidates to primary these candidates. Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm trying to remember his name. Hold on, I had a business card here.
Yeah, I'm trying to. How would we go about that?
Find good candidates and put them forward.
I have to put on my reading glasses. Hold on.
Oh, okay.
Joys of getting older.
Yeah. What are you saying, Patrick?
I said it's about finding good candidates and putting them forward, I guess.
Yeah, and is GOA? I think GOA is still rating the statewide candidates and stuff like that, right? Yeah, not just national. Okay.
Yeah. We endorse, we rate state legislative candidates, statewide races, and also a couple of key city races too. But look, I'll give you a great example. We haven't endorsed him yet, but Marshall Rolfson, he's running for State House. He's going to run for the regular election in 2026. But good guy. I've spoken to him. Like I said, we haven't endorsed him yet. We're still vetting. We are very stingy with our endorsements, specifically because, one, we want to make sure we get the best candidate. But in talking to someone like him, he's already put himself out on the map saying, look, I want to run for office. I want to do this. And he approached us. And, I asked him, where do you stand on open carry? Where do you stand on constitutional carry? Where do you stand on all these 2A issues? And he's like, look, man, I am 100% in favor of repealing gun control and pushing freedom. And I said, awesome. As the year progresses, we're going to vet you. We're going to see where you stand on this. And depending on that is whether you earn an endorsement or not. But now is the time to start looking for good candidates. Not 6 months from now, not a year from now, but right now.
So how do we know what's good candidates? Patrick, feel free to jump in here. What's the things we need, Patrick, to figure this out and then to get them all the way across the line?
I don't know any of that. That's my problem. I don't know how any of that works. I feel like it's difficult to you're either in their group or you're not, and if you're outside their group, it's hard to get it's hard to get an outsider into politics.
Yeah, but we need that, though. We don't need the inside guys because that's the problem that we're having here in Florida. So how do we identify the outside guys, right? How do we convince them to run? Because it's going to take money. They can't go up against these guys without money. So how do we get them money? And then exposure is a big deal. How do we get them exposure as well? Like if you look at this, the Democrats right now are scrambling and trying to reorganize to get their candidates to actually get on podcasts and things like that because it made a massive difference on the national level. I don't know if that same kind of thing's happening on a state or local level.
It is. So there's a couple of things. One, in your local areas, start attending your local political organizations. Attend your Republican Liberty caucuses. Go to your actual county level Republican Executive Committee meetings. Also, see some of the other organizations that are in the area. You have the Florida Republican Assembly, another great group of folks. You have the Republican National Hispanic Assembly. See if they're having any local meetings. All of these like-minded organizations, they're all politically active and they're all networking, just like GOA is, because we get involved in a lot of these organizations and we talk to a lot of these people. And you have cross-pollination. So if you don't know who's a good potential candidate to vet, see what the buzz is right now in your local level groups, because they'll have their ear to the ground and they'll be hearing who are the potential candidates. And on top of that, as these people start rising up through the ranks, ask them where they stand on issues. Go up to them in public spaces, in a polite manner, but get them on record, get them on camera and say, where do you stand on this? Where do you stand on that? And do that for all of the candidates, whether they're an incumbent, whether it's an open race, whether they're a primary challenger, put them on the record. Mm-hmm. And Hank, this is where you come in. The political sphere has completely changed within the last 20 years. I've been politically involved since my teenage years. So I remember, the key things to get involved politically was you had to do the Sunday morning talk shows, and you had to get on the local TV news stations, and you had to get in print news reports and magazines. That's all gone. I mean, that's still there, but that's pretty much on the way out. As we saw this last election cycle, especially, alternative media, podcasts, a lot of that has to do with it. The use of social media itself. Every candidate that wants to run for office has to be their own podcast, their own social media influencer, and their own brand. That's what it's coming down to. It's not just that you could be a face and a name and the political machine will carry you. You have to be your own brand. And that involves anything politically now. You want to be an advocate, you have to be a brand. You want to be a 2A freedom fighter, you have to be a social media influencer. Mm-hmm. And one of the best things that I did recently was I attended. You know who Diana Muller is, right?
Yeah, that name sounds familiar to me. Yes.
She runs Women's for Gun Rights.
Yes. Okay, we've had her on the podcast. Yes.
Well, she puts on a class called the Ambassador Academy. She did it at WAFT, just northwest of Orlando. Mm-hmm. It was a 5-day course, and the entire class was literally about all of this. Everything you guys are asking, especially on the social media side of it. And some of the information was really awesome because I scribbled, I took copious amounts of notes. But basically what she said is, look, the most politically active generation right now, it's not baby boomers, it's not Gen Xers, it's not millennials, it's Gen Zers. Because you're talking about a demographic that grew up in a digital environment, that their entire childhood has been one of either political confrontation or economic conflict. They grew up they were born into and grew up in the Great Recession, the 2026 election, the 2020 election, the pandemic, all of that. Mm-hmm. But being that they're a digital generation, they know how to navigate the internet. They know how to navigate social media. They know how to navigate alternative sources of media. They're not watching NBC Nightly News or CNN. They're watching you.
Yeah, you have to meet them where they are. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. And we're doing that too.
But the most interesting thing is,
as 10 seconds. 10 seconds. Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
They're politically active, and they're mostly conservative.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear. All right, listen, we're going to take this break. We're going to be right back. We wouldn't be able to keep the Who Moved My Freedom podcast going without the support of manufacturers like Safety Harbor Firearms. SHF is a quintessential family-owned small business, totally representative of the American dream. Safety Harbor Firearms is a Florida-based manufacturer of the compact entry stock and the SHTF 50 upper for an AR-15 lower. Also, SHF happily delivers on your Sten gun parts needs. So don't forget to check out stenparts.com and safetyharborfirearms.com. Yeah, this is a tough thing to deal with, right? The politicians we have out there right now, for the most part, are just thinking about climbing the political career ladder.
Yep.
If they're a congressman, they're thinking about becoming a senator. If they're a senator, they're thinking about becoming president. If they're in the state house or whatever, they're thinking, oh, am I going to get into Congress and all that? And that's why we have this issue. And these aren't people who really believe what they're putting out there, right? That's why we're calling them Republicans in name only. Now, when you have the regular folks like us out there, we're always reluctant to jump into the political game.
I don't know that I want to. That's part of the problem.
Yeah. Now everyone has a part to play. Go ahead, Lewis. Mm-hmm.
The thing, you yourself don't have to run for office, because our national motto says it best. E pluribus unum, out of many one. Together, if we unify and we become a loud, unified voice, we're able to drown out the establishment rhinos in the legislature. Look, we have a Republican supermajority. In reality, it's a supermajority in name only. It's as if the Democrats really have power here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we need to unify as a voice, and we need to crack down on all of this. You were asking, Patrick, well, what else can I do? If you go to your Republican Executive Committee meeting, that's your county level Republican Party, and you start raising a stink, guess what? It's going to get hurt. Because even the state chairman of the party, Evan Power, he welcomed with open arms Representative Hillary Castle and Susan Valdes. They were two Democrats who abandoned the Democratic Party just this past election cycle. This past November, they fled the Democrats. They became registered Republicans. Power had the nerve on social media to say, oh, I've known Hillary forever. She's great. She's going to be an awesome thing to the GOP, yada, yada, yada. Mm-hmm. The first thing I did was I told him on social media, bro, she's campaigned being anti-gun. She's going to vote against every gun bill. And guess what? She voted against every gun bill that she's been able to vote against. She voted against the under 21 purchase ban repeal.
Yep.
And his response was, well, it's better that we have 80% supporting it than 100%. I'm like, no, we have a supermajority. What the hell is the point of having a supermajority if we're not doing supermajority things? When the Democrats have power, they actually push through what they want. What's the problem here in Florida with this Republican supermajority?
Yeah.
And if you go to your REC meetings and raise a stink, trust me, it'll start going up, because you could plant that seed at your local REC and other people will start going, this Patrick guy, he's right. What the hell is going on?
Yeah. It's they're no one's taking a look at them. They need the sunshine. They need the light shined on them for them to pay attention. And then we just really need to identify good people that want to do this. Folks who aren't just doing it for the money, who really believe this. I believe those people are out there. Sometimes they're already doing things. Listen, when I talk about, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
The thing for me are the people in my life experience, the people who seek power, who are out there looking to get power, are the ones who should never be elected to an office. That's how I always feel. Like, they're usually the worst. The ones that are out there desperately looking for power are usually the worst ones to have it.
Listen, I agree with you. It's always a double-edged sword. Look, the same thing goes for when people say influencer. I've been doing this, I think, since 2012, 2013. And influencer sounds like a bad word to me, right? But it's what I am. Now, it's just like, for every man is responsible for his own honor. And when it comes to being someone that's a content creator like I am, I'm responsible for my own honor. I'm the one who has to make sure that I really believe in these things, even if I'm getting money for it or this or that's happening, right? I'm the person who has to carry that. So we can find people like that out there. There are people like that out there. That's, why this whole thing hasn't burned down and we're not Europe yet. There are good people out there. We need to identify them. Sometimes they're on the bottom of things, like in my mind when we were talking about this, I think about my sheriff, right? Really good guy. I know he believes in the Second Amendment. Lots of sheriffs around Florida do. It's tough enough, though, for them to stay sheriff. And then you have to think, if they move from being sheriff to something else, who comes in there? Because that's what directly affects you. Where I live here, that's the most direct thing that's going to affect me, who my sheriff is, right? And my relationship with him. And that's why I tell people it's very important to vote, especially on the local things. If you're mad about what's going on in politics, that's fine. So
you bring up a great thing. Most people are worried about what happens in D.C., when in reality, the interactions of government that they deal with 9 out of 10 times is either local or state. Mm-hmm. And you can go to most people, who's the president? Donald Trump. You can ask him, who's the governor? Mm-hmm. I don't know. Who's your state rep? I have a state rep.
Yep.
And you're right.
Yeah.
Everything is local.
Yes, I agree. And that might be a place where we can find some of these people. There are people out there. We've got to find them, and then we have to help them in order to do this. And yes, you're trusting that person's honor, that they're doing it for the right reasons. We've all been burned before by lots of different people. And as Lewis was just saying, there's folks jumping from being Democrats to being Republicans just to jockey their way up the ladder here.
Yep.
Yeah, always happen in Florida. Always happen around the country, for that matter. Okay, so Lola sent me this. Let me go over to this. I don't know if we've got any questions or comments, but Truth About Guns has this. TV ad by Second Amendment Foundation rallies opposition to gun grabbers. I don't know if any of you have seen this. The Second Amendment Foundation, one leader in the battle to protect the right to keep and bear arms, has launched a new national television commercial aimed at rallying America behind President Donald Trump's pro-Second Amendment agenda. So, and there's a press release and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, Lewis, you're from, I don't know if you've seen this, and I'm just reading through it right now. What is this GOA?
I try to stay up to date on everything, but, the fact that we have special elections going on tomorrow, both for Congress and State House, I've been really busy with that the last couple of days.
Yeah, but we're going to start to see some of this stuff, I feel like, and I know GOA is doing something to help. I don't know how to put this. How should I put this, Patrick? Encourage nudge
Courage.
the administration.
Courage is a good one.
I can tell you this: our federal affairs guys, they're in talks with the White House. There's a lot of communication going back and forth. Our federal affairs guys asked me a question of all tongue tied here. They wanted to know specifically what law enforcement does on the federal level when it comes to the surplusing of firearms. And I said, it all goes to Captain Crunch. And they're like, wait, what? The feds don't? I'm like, no, the feds haven't surplus police guns in forever. The last batch of FBI guns to ever hit the market as a surplus piece was Smith & Wesson Model 13 revolvers, and that was very few of them, and a couple of 1076s because they were sent back to Smith & Wesson for repair, and then they were let loose on the market.
It is so rare nowadays to see a FBI gun that they fetch big dollars because you just don't see it.
But that was like one of the things that, and someone might be saying, well, why is that a thing being discussed? Well, I'll give you a real simple thing. Doge, if the federal government is looking at ways to save money, we're going to the federal government saying, hey, you want to save money? Instead of destroying all of this stuff,
tell them. I've always
sell
said
it as surplus to the taxpayers.
I've always made this argument. We've already paid for it once, and we're stupid enough to pay for it again, because I know I am. Depending on how cool it is. I looked at there was a guy the other day that brought in a Florida Highway Patrol Colt Python. It was super cool. Stuff like that. I know. How cool is that?
Wow.
And
did you see Lewis clutch his heart just now?
Yes, it's beautiful.
Did you?
I know what it is because it's 5-inch. It's nickel finished.
They're friggin' cool. Yeah, but like, stuff like that.
I think Lewis, were you Highway Patrol? I know you've done a few things in law enforcement before you retired, right?
No, never worked for the Big Orange.
Okay.
Was a city cop and worked for the state doing plainclothes investigations.
Okay.
Yeah, the old Highway Patrol Pythons they're fetching big dollars now because that stuff doesn't exist. But seeing FBI guns now, super rare. It's really rare to see one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's one of.
I've said this so much that we would totally eat those things up, and then that money goes right back into more procurement if you need it. It saves tax dollars.
But that's not, of course, the only thing. Look, we're discussing legislation. We're discussing. What Pam Bondi's now doing, going after the LA Sheriff's Department and elsewhere. We've discussed that with the White House. We've discussed a lot of things with the White House and saying, look, here's a list of things that could be done from top to bottom in terms of importance and way to do it. Let's knock this out. So I could say this, between the first Trump administration and now,
it's different.
Even Trump has learned that gun owners have two things. They have a long memory, and they're very vindictive when they're stabbed in the back.
When they were talking about bringing Bondi in, I was like, y'all have no idea what you're getting into. She's been
I know, trust me.
As a Floridian, was like, y'all are championing this woman, and you have no idea what she helped do to us.
Yeah. I'm glad that you brought up Pam Bondi, because I know
it's funny because we're all Floridians here.
Yes, absolutely. And we got this question. Yes, and we got this question earlier from someone out there. I don't remember exactly who, but what's your thoughts on Pam Bondi, since we're on the subject?
My thoughts on Pam Bondi: she's not to be trusted. She has shown what she has done as the Florida Attorney General. She fully defended the open carry ban in the state Supreme Court. She is the reason why George Zimmerman was tried after it was originally shown to be a self-defense incident under Florida Stand Your Ground.
She was so excited about her red flag law that she was working on.
Yeah, she pushed red flag law. She's championed that she had a part in crafting the under 21 purchase ban here in Florida.
Yes.
So the reason why right now she's doing pro-gun things is because the Trump administration, Trump himself, is basically telling her, don't you screw this up for me or I'm throwing you out. Because Trump learned, that gun owners are not to be trifled with. We are a political force not to be reckoned with. And he even addressed us at Goals last year. He said, hey, you guys actually go to bat.
Mm-hmm. The one thing Trump hasn't learned, though, is that he still likes to have a whole bunch of hot chicks around him. I'm not complaining about it. As a dude, I
drives
would
me crazy watching. So going back to the Bondi thing, if you watch her on camera, she's not that good to me. Like, I don't feel like she's that good in front of the cameras. She's
no.
I agree. I agree.
I never understood the. I'm not trying to be mean or judgmental to her, but
I think people think
I never understood why people suddenly fell head over heels for Bondi. I mean,
I don't get it.
I think people
growing up in Miami, Bondi is like a South Beach 2. So.
Yeah. No, it's not. But that's not the thing that's going on here, though. The thing I think that's going on is she's female, and I think that people are just looking to, check categories here. So now I'm not knocking her for being female. I think there's like fiercely pro Second Amendment, very MAGA females out there.
You want a great example? Our prior Attorney General, Ashley Moody, when we filed our lawsuit challenging the open carry ban, she flat out said, I'm not defending this. This open carry ban is unconstitutional. I ain't touching this with a 10-foot pole. She told the state attorney's office, good luck, guys. The attorney general's office ain't defending this.
Yeah.
So
Moody seems much more clever than Bondi.
Yeah. So, and I think, I don't know, I have a feeling that Pam Bondi is slow walking everything. For whatever reason, she's in with Trump, and she's the one that he called up to do this particular thing. And I feel like, because I think we were supposed to get Trump, he did the executive order for a Second Amendment report, and that was supposed to come in March 9th, which is come and gone. I know, because that was my birthday. So, that's come and gone.
The report, she missed the deadline twice, but now she's starting to do good things. And I think part of that comes down to Trump has learned not to trifle with gun owners, and he's pushing the issue, and that's a great thing. I can tell you flat out, I was critical of Trump for his 2A mistakes. When he did the bump stock ban, when he pushed red flag laws on a national level. Yeah, I was furious, and organizationally, we were furious because, look, we don't carry water for a politician or a party. Our entire stance is confrontational politics. They do good, we spank them. They do bad, we spank them. If tomorrow Barack Obama came out and said, I fully support national reciprocity, I want it passed, it's about time that people could come to Illinois and carry a firearm, we wouldn't be there going, well, screw you, Obama. We'd be going, oh my God,
Absolutely.
even Obama gets it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
I'm 100% on board with that.
I promise to stop talking about Big Mike if that happens. I'll never mention that again. No, I agree with you. That's really what matters here, and I think it's really important. I think it's easy to get distracted with things, and I don't know. There's very little that I have to complain about with what's going on with the Trump administration right now. There are some little things that really don't make sense, and I think some of it, like right now, lately he's been talking about running for a third term or whatever. I think it's really the media bringing up the third term thing with Trump, but that kind of like lights his fire. You know what I mean? He likes that kind of stuff, which you have to shut down. That's the same thing with when he said, forget about due process. Whenever I hear whenever I hear running for a third term, it's like, dude, as far as I'm concerned, it's 2 terms.
I know it was a joke. If you listen to the clip, it was a joke. But at the same time, it's like, don't go playing with that fire. It's unconstitutional, and we're not.
Give me 1 second. Hold on.
Are you talking about him running for a third term, or?
Yeah, he's joking about the third term.
Yeah, that kind of stuff just makes me get the heebie-jeebies. I'm like, and by the way, the media knows this, and they're goading him on, and he's, instead of going, look, I'm going to do the best job I can do in this term, and there should be people coming up behind me that you guys can support that will keep moving this ball forward. I get it. You know, he's a New Yorker. Lots of New Yorkers, myself included, ego-driven. So like that idea, but that kind of stuff reminds me of what happened before, and it worries me a little bit.
Look, you know, the whole thing is he's doing a hell of a lot better right now than he did the first go around.
100%.
I'm supportive of that. We're supportive of it so far. We like what we're seeing on a national level. Mm-hmm. Look, he's supporting national reciprocity. He's putting pressure on the Attorney General to actually fight for our rights. We have spoken forever that the DOJ's Civil Rights Division should be investigating and going after anti-gun states. Mm-hmm. Now that's actually happening. You know, this is something that was always hypothetical. Now we see it actually starting to happen. This is fantastic. And part of that is because GOA, its members, and folks like you have really raised the issue within the last 4 years to say, what the hell is going on?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm happy with most of the stuff that's going on also. We've just got to keep pushing it because it's easy for this stuff to get pushed to the wayside. That's really what always happens with the Second Amendment. I think a lot of people realize we're a big group and will come out and vote for that, and then maybe we don't pay attention to the other things. And the bigger group that's moving out there, I think we all care about immigration, things that he's dealing with. I support what's going on with Doge. You know, we really have to redo a lot of the old ways of doing things. We've got to get rid of that shit. Yeah, so I fully support that. And the symbol that it's actually working and doing something is look at how, you know, the liberals, the Democrats out there, look at how fired up they are about this. When would you think, if we get in a time machine and go back 10 years ago, would you think that liberals would be out there burning down electric cars?
If you ask me,
I would not think that would ever happen.
Look, I'm going to be brutal.
30 seconds. 30 seconds.
If we went back 20 years ago and you asked me where we would be today with the Second Amendment on the advances that we have made, I thought we would have been crazy. I thought whoever asked would have been crazy. I mean, look, 20 years ago, it was just the assault weapons ban just expired. We didn't even have the Second Amendment ruled as an inalienable right in the Supreme Court. And look where we are now. Yes, we're still fighting the fight, but we're taking ground.
Yes, we're going to take a quick break here. We're going to come back, maybe talk about the Supreme Court. The Who Moved My Freedom podcast is made possible by our partners at 2A Commerce. Veteran-owned and with over 20 years' experience, 2A Commerce is the leader in custom e-commerce and web application development in the shooting sports industry. Clients include major brands such as Guard Dog Body Armor, Sylvan Arms, AccuFire Technologies, The Tactical Games, Warrior Knife Company, and yours truly, Hank Strange. Visit 2A Commerce and support this show by supporting them. Once again, visit the number 2acommerce.com. All right, we are back. Shout out to everyone out there who's still hanging in with us right now. We appreciate you guys. Let me know if you have questions and comments. We've got like around 30 people out there with us right now. Smash those thumbs ups. We need all the thumbs ups that we could possibly get. Chris Bullis says, I'll take up Hank's slack about Big Mike. Oh boy. You know what? Because Lewis is here, I'm not gonna delve too deep into any of that stuff. We gotta keep Lewis on at GOA. We do not want to rock the boat too much on any of that. DCG44, shout out to him. He says, if you're trying to defeat an anti-2A candidate, look for another subject they voted on that you can use to take away votes. Did they vote to raise taxes? Did they vote against firing? What is that? Oh, fixing potholes, etc. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Don't just stay single issue, narrow focused on that. Even though that might be your issue, but look at the big picture. Like right now, what's going on here in Florida. You know, you have the issue with property taxes. You have the issue with the immigration enforcement. Look at their voting record on that. Look at how they've overridden the governor's vetoes on the budget. You challenge them on that and say, you're fiscally conservative and you did this?
I don't think people in Florida are aware of this. I do not think people are aware. Patrick, go.
It's infuriating. It's infuriating when you're like, you're so close to making actual big change in my life for the better, and y'all can't get out of your own way.
Yeah. And Patrick is feeling this one, man. He's a homeowner. He's a papa.
Hell yeah. Seriously.
Patrick is ready for that cut. And I get it. I mean, it's a big deal.
Yeah. I get it. Hey, my wife and I, we got our daughter. It is not easy to raise a family. And they just keep going like, we're just going to raise up your property tax and make your life miserable.
It's scary, especially I think, like, if you bought a home, you got a good deal on the home, now your area is blown up, but maybe you want to get out of that area, or you're stuck there for whatever reasons. Maybe you're not stuck, but you want to be there, but the taxes have gone up along with it. We used to live in Palm Beach, or West Palm Beach. So we used to be in that Palm Beach, West Palm Beach area. Man, everything is freaking insane over there right now. I'm glad I ran away to the country. Let's do this. Let's do this really quick. Oh, actually, what was the thing I was going to say? You know what? I remember way back when we got all these laws that went into effect. And for example, it's not just the age thing. I think built into that is you can't modify triggers, etc. Is that in
the bump stock ban?
Yeah, is that in this bill, or is this bill covering that, or is it just the age?
There's a separate bill in the House and the Senate to repeal the bump stock ban in its entirety. It has not moved at all. Wow. I have in my talks with the Republican legislature, they're telling me that they're willing to give us, and this is how they say it: we're willing to give you.
I don't like it.
We don't want to tackle red flag laws right now. We don't want to tackle the bump stock ban. We don't want to tackle open carry. But we're willing to tackle this, and I'm just there going like, you don't work
you took
for
two
us.
cojones from me.
You work for us.
Yeah, you took two cojones. You'd be like, I'll give you one cojones back.
Yeah, you don't seem to understand the fact that these are rights that have been stolen from me. Yeah. And I want them back.
Yeah. Insane. Let me see. DCG44 says, SCOTUS is important, of course, but don't forget lower courts as well. That's true. Now, before we get to that, I remember when all of that happened and we had those, like, you can't modify firearms, etc., which is still technically a law here. I don't think they've prosecuted anyone behind that yet, but it's on the books. So I remember
on the books and it's a felony.
Yes, it's a felony. And I remember going to SHOT Show and talking to firearms manufacturers in the state of Florida that had no clue about that.
Yeah.
And I was like, how can you guys are manufacturing in the state of Florida and you don't even know these laws? Yeah, you don't know these laws are going on. And I think that's the big thing that we have going because, like we were talking about this stage and everyone playing their part and okay, here's these people going. And then we're trying to like help get those people some attention for what's going on or even let the folks know about what's happening in Florida here when it comes to the Second Amendment. But all of this needs the lifeline of all of this is money, right? And we need the companies out there to be aware of that. Like you need to fund the things that are going on. I'm not talking about me necessarily, but we're not going to get this information out there if we don't figure out a way to help this information get out there and help the people who are putting it out there. And this if the manufacturers aren't aware of this stuff, they probably still don't know about this. There's people who are always surprised.
You bring up a great example, and a perfect example of that is we've all heard it. The 3-step rule for carrying a firearm in the vehicle. Oh, it has to be 3 steps to get it. That's how it's like. No. Florida law literally says if it's in a shoebox with the lid on it on the seat next to you, it's securely encased. Your glove box is securely encased.
Closed container.
Your console is securely encased.
Backpack.
But people still promote these frivolous myths like this 3-step rule to carrying a firearm in your vehicle. That's because
I'm an NRA certified instructor. I teach CCW courses, and you hear this all so much. Well, you do this. It's like no. You want me to show you where the Florida statute is? I will point it out. You can read it for yourself. That's not in there.
And here's the screwed up thing: lawmakers are like that.
Still believe it.
There was one of the bills we spoke against is a carve out for cops for the waiting period. And it's not that, look, we're against cops skipping the waiting period. It's that everyone should be able to skip the waiting period.
Right.
That's our stance.
Exactly.
It's very simple. It's like, look, I'm a former cop. Would it have benefited me as a cop? Yeah, great. Am I against it? Yeah, because it ain't fair that everyone else has to jump through that stupid hoop.
Yeah.
But what was funny is one of the Democrats raised a question to the bill sponsors, like, well, doesn't this mean that they have to do a background check still, or do they skip the background check? And the bill sponsor was like, no, they skip the background check. I'm like, your own bill says they don't, you idiot. It just says that they skip the waiting period. And you're the bill sponsor. You're the one that supposedly wrote this piece of legislation. You don't know what it is. That's how bad it is. That's the issue in Florida. In the Florida politics, is that even the people pushing legislation don't know it, because leadership literally says, "Here you go, file this, or I make you look bad."
Yeah.
Yes.
There's a lot of that. This is the thing about people not knowing about certain things. I saw this. I was talking about this in the last 24 hours. I think Trump pardoned this guy named Trevor Milton, who was basically the CEO of a company called Nikola. That's like they made hydrogen electric powered heavy duty vehicles like tractor trailers and stuff like that.
I remember now. He was the guy that supposedly was going to do an all-electric 18-wheeler, and it turns out that the video wasn't, that it was just rolling downhill, and it never actually did anything, and it was a huge investor scam. Yes, I remember.
So congratulations, Louis. You are a gun guy who's very busy. You do a lot of stuff, and that guy basically, you know what he did, and you know that they're investors who got into this company and lost everything, like regular folks out there. And Trump pardoned this guy, and when he was talking about it, he had no clue of why he pardoned this dude. And it's insane to me, and I was looking at it like, what's happening? He was like, oh, he was cleared over here, and then this is an unfair thing. No, this guy was never cleared anywhere. He completely bilked investors and made hundreds of millions of dollars, which he still has, and those people who invested in that company are SOL, right? And at the same time, we're looking at Trump, when it comes down to like, CRS Firearms, for example, FPS Russia, etc., these guys have not been pardoned. And what this comes down to is there's, like, I remember looking at that with Trump, like, why is there no one around him that he could go, what's going on with this Trevor Milton guy? Or, what's up with this or that? These people, we think they know, and they don't know. You, for example, even though it's not your subject, you know.
Yeah, in the 2A community, there's two examples of people that should definitely be pardoned. I'm currently blanking on their names, sadly, right now, but you have two gentlemen from Kansas. One guy in Kansas passed an NFA nullification law that basically said if a suppressor is made in Kansas and doesn't leave Kansas, it's legal in Kansas. Right, one guy made the can, another guy bought the can. They both were charged with felonies under the Obama administration. It's gone up to the Supreme Court. During Trump's first term, they were denied a pardon twice. And another case is you have a master at arms, a Navy law enforcement.
Oh my God, that guy
who built, who had a parts kit and was basically charged with possession of a machine gun when it's not even a machine gun. It's a parts kit. It's a DWAT parts kit. Mm-hmm. He hasn't been pardoned either. So,
I don't know who's up there doing this stuff. They need to stop the pardons, by the way. What the hell's going on here with this, man? This pardons are getting out of control. Trump is going to make more pardons than Biden did, and that's saying a lot.
I think that's one of the issues that we as an organization are reaching out to the White House and saying, look, these are the people who should be pardoned. These are the people who should have their rights restored. Mm-hmm. It's wrong that you have law-abiding Americans who don't have an avenue to have their rights restored. Look, one of the good things that Pam Bondi just did was take away from ATF the power to restore rights to nonviolent felons on a federal level. Because that's always been there, but since 92, 93, Chuck Schumer had an amendment added to legislation back then that made it a power under ATF and never funded it. So there was no viable means for anyone who was a convicted felon of a nonviolent crime to petition to have their rights restored. Well, Pam Bondi just because in the end, they all fall under the Department of Justice. The AG just took that away from ATF and said, nope, it's back under the DOJ. We're going to start processing people.
Okay, that's good. Were you going to say something, Patrick? Did we cut you off there?
No, nothing to say.
Yeah. Before we get into the Supreme Court thing, because I do want to bring that up. Yeah, there is some good stuff. I'm encouraged by Kash Patel being at the FBI, and then also he's at ATF. I know we probably would just like to see the dream, Patrick. The dream is that they just throw ATF into a vat of acid. But I'm encouraged by that. Yes, yeah. But I'm encouraged by Kash Patel being at the FBI, and then Kash Patel also being, what is it, acting director of the ATF? I think?
Acting director of ATF. Now, here's the thing. We want ATF disbanded, but first and foremost, before that happens, all of the anti-gun laws on the books have to be repealed, because if they're not, all that's happen is all those 1811 agents are going to be transferred from ATF to the FBI or the DEA, and all of that enforcement duties will transfer to a new agency, and they'll have mission creep. Because remember, when Prohibition ended, all of those federal agents that enforced Prohibition went over to ATF to start enforcing gun control.
Okay.
We got to get rid of the
law. So we never. And when was that? Prohibition was what, in the 30s?
Prohibition ended in 33. The NFA was enacted in 34.
Yes. So Prohibition started what, 20s or?
Prohibition was 1920 or 21, I believe. I had my dates confused.
So we never got rid of those Prohibition people. They've just been folded in.
Can you imagine living under that for that? Almost 10 years, people lived under that. That's still bonkers to me that people just accepted
I know exactly what it was like. I was a gun owner under the Clinton assault weapons ban. I know exactly what it was like.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah. Let's go to this.
30-round mags being verboten. I remember this being a possible felony because it held over 10 rounds.
Yeah. So let's go to this, because I really want to get us to cover this before we close out here. I want to see everyone's opinion on this. I know this kind of came up last week, but we weren't able to get on it. The Supreme Court upholds rules requiring background checks for ghost guns. That's CNN. San Francisco Chronicle says Trump could reverse federal restrictions on ghost guns. What would that mean for California? All that stuff. So, are you following this, Louis? You want to bring us up to speed with what's going on there? Mm-hmm.
So what happened was the Supreme Court ruled 7-2 that the Biden-era ghost gun regulation was constitutional and fell in line with the 1968 Gun Control Act. But here's the thing. It's a regulation. The Trump administration could very much tell the ATF, scrap that, throw it out the window, put it in the shredder. And that's, of course, what we're pushing for. The danger with this ruling from the Supreme Court is that they basically came up with some political gobbledygook to justify its existence as a regulation. So what this means down the road is that how are they going to review other challenges? But in terms of this specific regulation, this can be repealed by the Trump administration because this isn't a law. This is just a rule, again, created by the Biden administration.
Go, Patrick.
One of my fears is we need to do something that makes it where they can't do these things in the future. Because the next administration comes in, they have a change of heart, and they go, no, we want to go back to this. So.
Yeah. I mean, as gun guys, typically the zeitgeist of the gun guy, right, is that the ATF, for example, can't make these rules. I guess what the Supreme Court is saying is that the administration can make these rules. So the only way to undo it is with Trump. Is that where we're at? And is Trump going to undo that, you think?
The way to undo it is Trump could simply could repeal these regulations, but as Patrick said, we need to solidify it, and that's where we pass laws that prevents this. Executive orders and rescinding previous regulations is great in the short term. This is where Congress comes in, and we need to put pressure on Congress to actually pass solid legislation that defends our rights. Because if it's just a repeal of a regulation. We already saw this. We saw this when Biden took over. Biden, what was the first thing Biden did? He repealed Trump's executive orders. What was the first thing Trump did? He repealed Biden's executive orders. And Trump's first go around, he repealed Obama's executive orders. It's this cat and mouse game. What Congress needs to do is actually their job and pass laws that say, no, federal government, you can't do this. Bad.
So with a supermajority, I don't know if we have a thin supermajority, right? What are the odds that we're going to be able to do? We do not have a
supermajority. We just have a majority. Okay.
So we're not going to be able to do that right now, maybe until midterms, which is my least favorite. Wait till midterms.
There's a path. If you don't have 60 votes, you can do it what's called budget reconciliation, which is you attach it to must-pass legislation. Either you attach it to must-pass legislation, or you attach it to the budget and you get it past reconciliation, which a budget only needs 51 votes. Now, going back to the Obama administration, remember the national park carry. The way that was done is Obama wanted this credit card reform bill to lower interest rates or something. Republicans attached national park carry to that bill. Obama wanted it passed, period. Point, end of paragraph. He wanted it done.
Yeah, he wanted that on his resume or whatever.
He wanted it on his resume. Guess what? If he wanted it, the Democrats had to pass it, even with national park carry. So that can be done. We can we can attach it to the National Defense Authorization Act. The national budget every year for the military, fund the military.
Oh, okay.
We can pass a lot of key provisions. It's just lawmakers actually need to grow that thing called the spine and do it.
Okay. So we need to find something that Democrats aren't going to want to filibuster. I don't know. I'm guessing that would be maybe like funding Ukraine or something like that that's connected to that they really, really want to have no matter what.
It could be something that's, look, there's, a lot of people want credit card interest rates controlled. Okay, fine. Attach it to that.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting to see if we're actually going to get that. I don't know. What do you think, Patrick? Think we're gonna get it?
I have no idea. I don't really. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know what's gonna get done this term. There's so many people out for themselves that it feels like it's hard to get almost anything passed now.
Yeah, I think that comes back to what the folks in the gun community are waiting for, which GOA, for example, is pushing for. And so is other 2A organizations that are out there trying to get the administration to give something to the 2A folks. Like, throw us a bone.
Well, here's the thing. They're not going to give it to you. You have to put pressure on them to do it. Lawmakers' natural instinct is to do the bare minimum to nothing. They only move the ball forward when they're pressured. And the only way they're pressured is when gun owners make noise. And right now...
Folks, let me tell you about U.S. Law Shield. If you're serious about your Second Amendment rights, then you need to get serious about protecting yourself legally. Use promo code HANK for 2 free months on an annual membership, plus a locked-in rate of just $10.95 per month. Remember, the fight for freedom doesn't end at the range. Arm yourself with U.S. Law Shield, and remember to use promo code HANK. All right, we're back. That always cracks Patrick up.
What I was going to say is lawmakers do the bare minimum. They only move the ball forward when they're pressured. And the big issue we're facing right now is, and we saw this back during the first Trump administration, right after he won an election, was the Trump slump. Oh, the Republicans are in charge. We got Trump in the White House. We don't need to do anything. No, this is when you strike, when the iron is hot. Because remember, the Democrats did the same thing. When they had Obama in the White House and they took control of Congress, the first thing they did was they ran through Obamacare. We need to do the same thing. This is the moment to strike when the iron is hot. And the difference between Republicans and Democrats is when Democrats have power, they exercise it. When Republicans have power, they just hold it for someone else. We need to put pressure on Congress now. Not tomorrow, not next week, now.
Yeah, Patrick?
No, yeah, they if you don't pressure them, they sit on their hands and do nothing, and then go, "Oh, look, we did nothing. At least we didn't do the bad thing."
Yep.
Yeah,
You know?
I mean,
that's 20 years of the Florida legislature. We didn't do anything bad, really, even though they did.
yes. And 80%ers, I'm not a big fan of the ghost gun thing, but 80%ers, which I believe people have the right to.
You've always had the right to make your own firearm.
Always. Yeah, but this is an issue that they're wishy-washy on. This for sure is an issue they're wishy-washy on. We got to push them on it, but it's an issue that they're wishy-washy when it comes to this.
Patrick, you brought up a great thing earlier over at the state fair. When they show how the Florida crackers look, they are making black powder firearms by a blacksmith. That's an 80%er right there. That's an 80% fire. It's
Americans have been doing it forever.
Yeah. But the thing is,
Americans were building guns before there was an America.
Yeah, but how do we package that for these folks to understand, right? I mean, how do you package that? You can make your own bow and arrow. You can make your own knives, and the genie's out of the bottle.
A lot of people don't seem to understand that you give me enough reason to, and I can turn anything around here in front of me right now into a weapon. Mm-hmm. Hopefully I don't have the reason to turn it into a weapon, but it's not, anything can be turned into a weapon. Turning something into a firearm doesn't mean anything malicious. Mm-hmm. And
the crime is when you do the wrong thing. You can build your own automobile. You could build it, right? Or you can have a car, for example, and you can drive on the streets. You're not supposed to use it to injure people, but there are folks out there who deliberately use those to injure people. Now that's the crime. It feels like
we're always between certain people. There's always going to be certain people out there who want to have a nanny state that are telling you, like, look at the one that Keir Starmer was the other day in the UK was saying, "Oh, we're going to crack down on ninja swords." Like, y'all really got a problem with ninja swords? What the hell's going on?
They do, though. They do have a problem, but but this is inevitably where they're going to go in the UK, right? Eventually, they're going to go after your fists and your feet.
The United Kingdom. As all of our childhood, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It was illegal to call it Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in the UK. It was Teenage Action Hero Turtles. Because the word ninja was outlawed in the UK in the 1980s.
What the hell?
They were literally afraid that kids were going to get throwing stars and start, killing each other on the streets.
The UK. Oh my God.
It's so insane to me.
Yeah.
I'm truly waiting for the United Kingdom just to flat out declare breathing is a criminal act and they all suffocate to death.
Yeah. I mean, they've already, there's no freedom of speech. They're locking people up every day for things that they say on social media.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it's insane. We're dealing, I remember I used to live in England when I was a kid. And as far as England's concerned, America never saved them in World War II. Just craziness that people believe. And this is why all this stuff is going on. You know what I mean? And it's too bad that it's happening over there. But I feel like the people over there need to resist this. They need to push back against what's happening there. Because you have the right to defend yourself,
Not according to the crown.
But you do have. I know. I'm not a fan of royalty, at all, because I think these are the people holding the people of the UK around the world. I think royalty is holding people back. They don't have to face this. They're not elected, and they don't have to. They've got bodyguards and soldiers and stuff like that protect them, and they never have to face what the everyday person has to in England. And it's the same thing. It's almost the theme of what we're talking about here. The UK could be a beautiful place, but it also could be a very, very dangerous place. And law-abiding people have a tough time defending themselves, and now they can't even have a freaking ninja sword. At one point, have you ever seen a cricket bat? The Brits cricket bat?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That thing's mean.
Yeah.
Smack somebody upside the head with that's going to be real bad.
Yeah, I have one in my bedroom. The last time before my mom passed, she went to England, and she was like, "Oh, what do you want me to bring you back from England?" I was like, "I would like a cricket bat, please." And she brought me back a cricket bat that I have. You won't be able to have that. You won't be able to have anything. I guess they just don't have the right to defend themselves. And this is a nation that, how far back do we have to go in history when every able-bodied male had to be able to use a bow and arrow, for example?
Used to have...
Winston Churchill, before Winston Churchill was prime minister, there was a time during Winston Churchill's life when every law-abiding Brit in the United Kingdom could walk around with a concealed firearm, and it wasn't you didn't even need a permit. The United Kingdom went from that to what we see today, which is hard.
Yeah. But it's going on for a long time. I think, Patrick, you were going to say something like that. Like when you were even a kid, 7 years old or something, right? You had to, if you could stand, you had to be able to fire a bow and arrow, right?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. The UK is just so insanely backwards with what. I don't know how they've gotten to this point. They used to run the world, and now they can't run their own nation.
Royalty.
Look at us. Look at the United States. Look at California, New York, Illinois. Look at the northeastern U.S. It used to be the gun valley. All of the manufacturers used to be up there. Smith & Wesson, Ruger, Colt, all of them. Marlin, Savage, companies that went Remington, companies that went back to the 1800s. Remington was founded in 1816 when you still had founding fathers alive. And now the little birthplace of American liberty is a couple of degrees away from Canada and the United Kingdom. It's appalling.
If you didn't have those companies, you wouldn't have America as we know it today.
Yeah. You
wouldn't have it. You would not have it. Yeah, there would be some other and people could think whatever they want to, but it would be some other place, Russia or something like that, running America. Just you would not have what you have today. For sure, you'd have the Europeans would have to bow down to the king or whatever. Something like that would be going on here in America. And yet where those places were founded, they can't exist there anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And look, even go back to the United Kingdom. Looking at the country back in the 80s and before, you had well-respected names. Holland and Holland, Weatherby, not Weatherby. You had Enfield. You had
Parker Brothers was the.
There is a W. There is a W. What's the W?
It's not Weatherby. It's.
I was going to say Weatherby.
I know who it is. God, they made
not Waverly. I want to say Waverly, but that's not it either. Someone in the chat knows what we're talking about. I know Webley. Yeah, Sam Andrews is big into those. Yeah, Webley. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you had some of the biggest names in the fire. Look, Webley Firearms, for instance, while Colt was cranking out a single action army, Webley was already like, single action? We have double action revolvers already. Here you go. That was in the 1870s.
Yeah.
Some of the most finely crafted double rifles ever invented were made by Holland and Holland. And now, I think they're making air guns. And that's even, prohibitively expensive, and you have to get a permit for it.
That's what they've gotten in. Yeah. It's so pathetic.
Where is the future going to come from, man? Especially when you can't make your own stuff. Where's the future going to come from? A young person out there who's interested in rockets could go launch rockets. You're interested in cars, you could go mess around with cars, right? So there's lots of examples of that. I could give you Rimac, for example, which people may not know that, but Rimac right now owns Bugatti, right? And the founder of Rimac is a Croatian company. When he was a kid, he was racing his BMW, blew up the engine, and then figured out how to run that same car off of electricity. He founded this company called Rimac, and the Volkswagen Group gave him Bugatti for that. Where's that innovation gonna come from in the gun world?
Look, a great example of that is the National Firearm. Oh, I love that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, go ahead. We got a baby coming in, but I'm going to switch over. Go ahead. Yeah, there we go. Baby's coming in.
There we go. That's the future right there.
There you go.
But, a great example of how innovation has been stifled is the National Firearms Act. John Moses Browning invented the machine gun because he was shooting his lever actions one day and realized, wow, every time I shoot, tufts of grass in front of the muzzle get pushed over. I got a way to harness that, and he invented what eventually became the 1895 potato digger machine gun, the first real American belt-fed machine gun, while Hiram Maxim was also developing the Maxim machine gun. We don't have a political environment today that allows someone to do that.
The licensing that I have to get into, I'm an 0702, so I have the licenses to develop stuff, but it was not easy to get all of this, so I can then experiment and make something new. Like we had the M1 carbine was made by a guy in prison. He developed it in prison. Like, could you imagine that today?
Yeah. Look at that.
A step further. The fact that you are a manufacturer and you could develop stuff, you're still stifled economically because you can't sell your product to recoup your investment cost.
I can't. Yeah. I've had people ask, like, oh, yeah, you can make machine guns? I'm like, yeah, I got some. Why do you have them? Well, I mean, T&E, test and evaluation, figuring out how they work, but I can't. No police department's going to come and buy some babyface P machine guns. Like, nobody wants that.
It should be. You should have that potential. You guys have. I don't remember the name of the guy, but there's that story in New York of, I think it's a middle-aged black guy, very nerdy, very quiet guy, was building guns.
Yeah. He had a couple of 3D printers in his apartment, and they busted him for that. Yeah. I know exactly.
Was not a gang member, was not a criminal, was just very, very interested in it. He just found that he was fascinated by this, and he had the idea, like, how do you know that you really are into something? Do you have to jump through all the hoops Patrick is talking about? Or, like, this is how you figure out, oh, I'm really into this. This really fascinates me. This guy didn't hurt anyone. He's in jail right now.
The answer today is exactly that. You have to go out and do illegal things and then go, oh, I'm really into this. Oh, I should probably get the proper licensing. It's like... I mean, think of the guys that are doing polymer 80 stuff. Or not polymer 80 per se, but like 3D printing. I know some dudes that are 3D printing things that aren't perfectly legal, and it's because it's the natural evolution of humans. You want to push the bounds and experiment and make stuff.
Yeah. But didn't we... Go ahead.
Talking about suppressors and 3D printing. Every person in this country should be able to 3D print a disposable suppressor for range use, just as a public common courtesy and as a health safety device to save hearing. The fact that it's so arduous to manufacture a suppressor and sell it means that every soldier out there is basically, how much money could we save through the VA if we didn't have suppressors on the NFA list? Yeah. Just if a suppressor was a $10 item that every GI, every soldier, every Marine could go to the PX and just buy it off the PX shelf for $10 and go, like, well, I don't want to go deaf. I'm putting this on my rifle. Instead of, no, it has to be a controlled item issued by the government because it's sterilized and this and that. How much money would we save just through the VA without having to have hearing loss?
The other issue here is, if you allowed people like me to develop alternative technologies, better ways to print, better ways to manufacture, you'd have more people in the game pushing prices down, and they wouldn't even be that expensive. A can would be cheap. It's a muffler. It's a car muffler.
Yeah, we push prices down. We push innovation forward. But I think, I don't know, maybe, let me see if I can find that article. But isn't there something out there in the news that they're going to make 3D printers have, I don't know what, a chip or something like that, so you cannot print guns? I think I heard that.
That's one thing they're pushing, and of course we're countering that with the Short Act, which removes short barrel rifle, short barrel shotguns, and suppressors from the NFA.
Yeah, but that's insane to think that we could have something like that.
And then the other idea that we have one gun is more dangerous or evil because the barrel is 1.5 inches shorter, or, oh, God forbid, he put a vertical foregrip on his gun. Like, it's so bizarre. The gun law makes no sense.
We are really stifling the future production of these things, and this is very important for America, and I don't think people understand that. And if that's wiped out in the rest of the world, and then we have all these restrictions currently on America, where's this going to be going forward?
The U.S. government or any government were not the ones that pushed firearms technology beyond black powder. It was individuals making stuff.
Yeah, just people curious about shit.
Exactly.
Government as a whole hasn't pushed innovation. It's been private industry.
Yep.
It's been private individuals across the board that have pushed innovation in this country. And the fact that we are becoming like Europe, where it is a government-run monopoly. You want a great example? Again, go to the United Kingdom. Look at their current service rifle, the SA-80, the L-85. And the common joke amongst the British Ministry of Defense is, our service rifle is like civil service workers. It doesn't work and you can't fire it.
That's a good one. I've never heard that. That's great.
Yeah. Meanwhile, if they really want weapons that works, where do they get it from?
Us.
Just think
There's
about that.
There's a reason why the SAS runs around with AR-15s while regular British Tommies run around with that crap awful L-85 bull.
Listen, it's a bullpup, so it's beautiful. But yes, I agree with you. It's not functional. Not functional.
I just don't like the L-85. It's garbage.
Right? Yeah. It should have been fixed by now. It should have been fixed. It should be easy running. Sorry, Patrick, cutting you off. Go for it.
I just bought myself a SIG Romeo 4 XT Pro. It should be here in the next couple days. American Optic. That is the SAS. Now use M4s. And they are using SIG electro-optics for the SAS. It's just like the British don't make anything good anymore.
Yeah,
it's sad. It's really sad.
And it used to be the rule of 303 across the world.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It's so pathetic. It's so sad for the Brits. But.
It's crazy to think about that. Do we want to show off some guns here in whatever time we have left? Maybe show off some.
You're
guns?
welcome to. I didn't bring anything with me. I got this.
All right. So hold. What you got?
This is the type of office I'm in. I got a 50 cal sitting on my desk.
You got what's going on? Are you show that again?
Nothing.
That again?
No, it's just this is a 50 cal I probably stole from Walter at some point. It's just sitting here on my desk.
Oh, okay. All right, very cool. Can't knock that. You need a 50, and that's all I can say about that.
I could use a 50.
That's the solution to that. While we're waiting for Lewis to come back, check this out. Steyr. There you go. M9A2MF, which means modular frame, not mofo. Very nice. Man, this is awesome. I really love the sights on this, Those pyramid sights.
The triangle pyramid sights. Nice that they're still doing that.
Yeah, very cool. And so modular frame now. So that's supposed to, I guess these are going to be modular at some time in the future. I don't know. Okay, so let me switch this over to let's go to Lewis here. What you got?
Smith & Wesson Model 29-9 Heritage Series. These were literally the last end frames to leave the factory without the lock back in 2000. These were made, they only made 176 of these for Lou Horton as a distributor special, and it's the only end frame 44 to have a pencil profile barrel with a partridge front sight.
Interesting.
Very wild design right there.
That's cool.
Basically, the whole deal was Lou Horton went to Smith & Wesson in the 90s and said, make a modern gun that looks like the guns you made back in the 1910s, and that's what they did.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. That's very nice.
And only 176 of them exist, and of course, it's in the ever classic American 44 mag.
44 mag. Yeah.
There you go. Very, very nice. Congratulations on that. Okay, I think we have done 2 hours here already. I really do appreciate all the folks who are out there been hanging out with us this whole time in the chat. I'm glad to see that we've got a lot of folks coming over here. Shout out to everyone. I see DCG 44s, Mr. Bullshitter, Kurt 24 out there, all those folks that have come in since we got started here. If you guys are coming in late after this is live, or you're coming in now, smash the thumbs ups. We really appreciate it. Right now at this moment, we have 30 people hanging out with us here live, so I appreciate that. Big thanks to Luis Valdes of Gun Owners of America. Specifically, he's here in Florida if you want to know what's going on with Florida. I'm going to let both of these guys give you their information so that you can follow them, support them, etc. before we get out of here. I'm going to start with Babyface P. How can the folks do that, Patrick?
Chrome Vanadium Arms. If you are looking to get any gunsmithing done, you can either find me at the phone number listed there, or if you're welcome to come email me, support@chromevanadiumarms.com, or any of my social medias. I can get you on socials.
If you Google Chrome Vanadium Arms, Patrick will
come up.
Yes. So, support him. This is what Patrick does for a living now. This is his thing, and he's pretty good at it.
I'm loving it. I'm never going back.
Awesome. Yeah, we don't want you to go back. And the same thing for you, Louis. Just tell the folks the different things you do here, how they can support and contact you.
Well, real simple. On social media, I go by Real FL Gun Lobby. That's on X. That's on Instagram. That's on YouTube. Very active on X. I will be active on Instagram and YouTube very soon. In terms of following what goes on, gunowners.org. I'm the Florida State Director. I'm the national spokesman. I fight tooth and nail for Florida and on the national level for our gun rights. If you go to gunowners.org, it's just $25 to join. Go to gunowners.org/join. Every penny goes towards the fight, and you get up-to-the-date information for local, state, and national gun rights issues.
All right, awesome. Thanks so much, both Babyface P and Luis Valdes of GOA for joining us here, and for all you folks hanging out with us. That's pretty much it. We will see you next week. I need to now go through and hit all the buttons, but we'll see you guys on the next one. Let me hit these buttons here right now.
Peace out, homie.
See ya. See you guys. Let me hit that.